though. Wind carried the kind of silence that didn't feel empty, but charged, as if the world were holding its breath and waiting for something to break it. Elena paused at the crest of the overpass, her fingers trembling around the strap of her weather-beaten backpack. Below her, the abandoned motorway stretched in two lifeless directions, both washed in the pale, colorless light of a sun that seemed tired of rising over a world that no longer needed warmth. She exhaled slowly. The air tasted of rust and damp earth, a reminder of how long the rain hadn't stopped and how many days blurred into the next. She thought she had grown used to this quiet, but today it felt different, sharper, almost personal. And somewhere deep inside her, a primitive instinct stirred, warning her that something was close, watching, learning her hesitation like a weakness. Still, she kept walking, because stopping meant letting the fear take root. And fear, in this new world, was a death sentence long before the infected ever found you. Elena had counted 28 years since the outbreak, though calendars had become more symbolic than accurate. People marked time by seasons, say by the slowing deterioration of the cities, by the number of times they had to relocate before a whisper of danger swelled into a thunderous certainty. She was one of the few who still tried to count the days. It helped her feel tethered to something, even if that something was a past she barely remembered. Her mother used to tell her that humans were born hungering for meaning. Elena wasn't sure she believed in meaning anymore, but she kept searching for it in the rubble nonetheless. The overpass gave her a wide view of the outskirts of the old city. Vines wrapped around lampposts, crawling down cracked asphalt like veins of some sleeping giant. The skeletal remains of cars lay in disorganized clusters, their doors open, their windows shattered. As people had fled mid-breath, everything about the place felt like a paused scream. Yet it had a strange beauty too, a beauty that Elena had learned to see in the way the world reclaimed itself. Nature no longer asked permission. She crouched behind a rusted van and pulled out her battered journal, a ritual she never abandoned. No matter how dire the circumstances, she wrote of movement near the river, unsure if it was human or not. Encounters with others had become as dangerous as avoiding the infected. Desperation blurred the lines between the two. People who survived this long understood that morality was a luxury, one that carried a cost none of them could afford. The faint sound of running water became clearer as she moved through the shadows, senses sharpened by necessity. Rivers were rare sources of life now, not because water was scarce, but because anything necessary to survival drew predators, human or otherwise. She needed it. She hadn't had clean water in days. A faint crack behind her made her freeze, and she heard deliberate footsteps approaching. A man emerged from the tree line, tall, wrapped in a patchwork coat, a rifle slung over his back. "You're far from any safe zone," he said. Elena met his gaze. "Didn't know any safe zones were left?" "Some places are safer than wandering alone," he replied. "Depends on how easily you trust strangers." "I don't," she said, gripping her knife. "Good. Then you might survive," he murmured. He introduced himself as Corin, and together they moved along the riverbank, letting the hum of nature fill the silence. Hours passed with minimal conversation, yet Elena sensed a quiet reliability in him, a recognition that humans could still choose cooperation over predation. Corin spoke of a distant northern community, rumored to be rebuilding a fragile network of people choosing compassion and trust over fear and rage. Night fell, and they camped beneath the skeletal remains of an old warehouse, firelight flickering over their cautious faces. Elena asked why they persisted when it was easier to give up. Corin's reply was simple, but powerful. Even in the ruins, we're capable of remembering what it means to be human. Compassion, mercy, love, those things don't vanish just because the world tries to crush them. The next days were a journey through towns and forests reclaimed by nature. Elena observed the twisted remnants of life-collapsed buildings, vines climbing walls, abandoned cars, but also signs of resilience. Small gardens, water stored in makeshift containers, faint marks of human presence that hinted at hope. Humans could be monsters, she thought, but sometimes they were angels. Eventually, they reached the valley. Smoke rose faintly from chimneys, signaling life. Families worked together in small clearings, cultivating crops, tending fires, building shelters from salvaged materials. Children ran through the dust-streaked pathways, their laughter faint but unmistakably human. Some of the survivors looked wary, eyes flicking to the surrounding wilderness, but the sense of community was undeniable. Elena and Corin were cautiously welcomed by the community, a settlement built from fragments of civilization, yet alive with shared purpose. They integrated, sharing stories of survival and loss. With Shith, witnessing the daily acts of care and cooperation that kept the fragile society together. An elder spoke quietly one evening. The virus, the chaos, the fear it strips away everything but what you choose to keep. Compassion, courage, love. These are the tools of survival, not weapons. Alina wrote in her journal, humans endure. Not because we are the strongest, or the fastest, or cleverest. We endure because we remember who we were, even in what we've become. And in remembering, we keep a part of the world alive one small act at a time. Weeks passed, and Alina realized that survival didn't have to be merely about avoiding death. She watched children learning, adults cooperating, communities rebuilding. Humanity was fragile but resilient. People could endure fear, rage, and devastation, but they could also endure each other. And in enduring together, they reclaimed life. One night, beneath a sky scattered with stars, Elena understood the full weight of their journey. They would face storms, loss, and the ever-present threat of the infected. But they would also face laughter, healing, and the simple act of being human. Her choice, like everyone else's, mattered by choosing cooperation over cruelty, hope over despair. She contributed to a world worth living in. She closed her journal, feeling the warmth of the fire and the presence of her new community. Elena was no longer a lone wanderer. She was part of something larger, fragile, resilient testament to the human heart, capable of darkness and extraordinary light. And in that, she had finally found home.